to heat up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, my name's Derek and we're the Plus Platoon. Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We'll look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to visit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed and you will never miss a moment. I'm going to bring in my girl, Kate. Kate, how you doing this evening?
I'm muted on all things. I'm good, Derek. How are you?
I can't complain. Doesn't do any good, so,
That's fair.
Next, we have got Pete. Pete, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing just fine, thank you. Yes, I'm glad to be here too.
Good. And we have Sam. Sam, how's your evening going?
It's going fantastic, you guys. It's actually a beautiful sunny day here in Seattle. So I just needed to tell you that because it's not always that way. And we are finally getting a really nice spring day. But I'm happy to be here with all of you.
Very glad to hear it. And we've got Steve here with us. Yeah, let us know if you're here.
Hi, Steve.
And we will have Micah joining us later for our Marvel segment.
Woohoo!
But first, Kate, we've got a fairly
questions.
Yeah, I think we all have questions.
Confused Kate made a big appearance.
For sure.
Kate, we've got the Disney Plus news this week, and it's a short one.
We have one. We have one Disney Plus news. The upcoming series.
Right, is it a new if there's only one?
It's a
news.
It would be newses. Newsies? No,
but that's a fun one we should put on the list, you guys.
That's only
a
if
fun
it's
one we should put on the list.
That's only if it's news about Christian Bale.
That's right.
Then it's newsies.
But we're not talking any Batman.
No Batman.
We are not.
No Batman.
The upcoming series Star Wars Andor is going to be getting a season 2 and 3, which Disney announced will be filmed back to back. The original plan was apparently for 5 seasons, but that has now been shortened to 3. And that's all we got, folks.
And we haven't even seen season 1 yet. So
yeah. So how do we even know if we're gonna care that it's 3 seasons instead of 5?
Because they're already filming it, and apparently the early previews have been good enough that Disney thinks they should invest money in more seasons.
Is this a live action then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the character from
the guy from Rogue One.
Ah, okay.
How does George Lucas feel about all of this?
Who cares? He doesn't own it anymore.
He's raking in the money.
He's just fine.
He's just fine.
Yeah.
And
if anyone has done the virtual reality thing, Cassian Andor is also in that. I forget what it's called.
I
don't think that's a thing anymore.
I don't think it's
it
still
closed.
I think it's closed. I think it's closed at Disney.
The Void. Oh, it was so
Void.
good. I didn't do the Star Wars one, but I did the Marvel one. Brian and I did that at Disney.
I think Void may still be there. It's just not. I don't think it's the Star Wars one anymore.
So we did it. We did it downtown Disney in in California, and it was fantastic. Super fun experience.
Gina, look it up in the background and let us know if it's still there.
Yeah, it's definitely still in Vegas because it was just there last year. So
okay.
It was really cool. I would definitely recommend it for people who are not going to the park for
Gina
if you have
says
a
it
day
is gone in California.
Oh, bummer.
So
it's gone at Springs down here.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna get to Moon Knight. But the new release we watched this week was the Disneynature movie Polar Bear. Follows a young polar bear growing up, and then as she becomes a mother, then with her cub. And who lost the toss on this one? Sam, I think I'm going to start it with you. Was
Oh
this an
my
entertaining
goodness.
time or was it unbearable?
You know, this one was such a mixed bag. There it was cinematically beautiful. It was super informative. You cared about these polar bears. You found out a lot about what they eat, what their habitat is like, how their habitat is basically going to be gone in less than 20 or in about 20 years. It was really I don't know, it was incredible to watch at times, and at other times you just, like, wanted to stop watching. So, spoiler alert, the bear's brother dies during the movie. My husband walked out at that point, he was so upset about it, and he's like, "Why are the film crew, why are they not intervening? Why are they not feeding the bear?" I think they purposely do that, and not interfere with the wildlife because they don't want to make them domesticated or dependent on the film crew. I don't know this. I'm sure Derek's probably done more research into that than I have. But I will say this movie had a very big impact on my 8-year-old who loves bears, loves all things bears. He's a big panda bears are his favorite, but polar bears are certainly up there as well. And at the end of the movie, they tell you that you can donate to Polar Bear International if you want to try and help save the polar bears and save their habitat. And I will say that this is the most impactful part of the film for me was that my 8-year-old said to me that he wanted to use his allowance money that he saves. We have some that he like is able to spend and some that he's able to save, and he wants to donate a whole bunch of it to Polar Bear International in order to help save the polar bears because he said he doesn't want the polar bears to go extinct on his watch. That's what he said. He
Oh, that's
literally said
awesome.
that.
Aw.
So this was hard to watch at times because it was devastating. When the brother died, it was also devastating to see that the polar bear's habitat is basically going to be gone within our lifetime. But I think if the intent of this film is to try and get attention on, the plight of the polar bear and the fact that they are likely to go extinct, except for maybe polar bears in captivity within our lifetime, then it hit the mark. So I can't call it an entertaining time, but I can't really call it unbearable. I don't know. It's really
Mm.
hard to say. Derek, how did you feel about it?
Um, yeah. Got a lot of neat I have a lot of neat different facts because I actually saw an interview with the people, and they said that this was actually filmed over a 15-year period. This is so the it's not like
Wow,
they
so it
did.
really was her as a
Yes.
baby and then was her as an adult, which I
Yes.
didn't think that was, yeah.
Yes, it really was the same
Mhm,
female bear there. And it
mhm.
really does show 15 years ago the difference in the sea ice. Um,
Yeah, it was crazy.
the other thing they talked about was the first person narrative style that they did, where instead of going for a whole bunch of numbers and different facts, they wanted to go for the emotional appeal. They wanted to go try and get the emotional connection. Um,
It worked, I mean, I would say
yeah.
in that sense, yeah.
You talked about why they didn't intervene. Um, there's two directions they couldn't go with this. They could either, I, in for the most part, documentarists don't intervene. Think, and Kate and I were talking about this one, the Disney Chimps movie, whichever one that was, where the gang came in and killed all the other chimps, and the photographers did nothing.
Ugh.
It's now that is in contrast to the old True Life Adventures, where I think those had better pacing because they would move from like animal to animal to animal for me. But at the same time, the whole lemmings jumping off the cliff, people think that's real because they literally took a board and shoved a bunch of lemmings off a cliff. Um, which makes me wonder, okay, at 18 minutes, the seal that's up on the ice that the bear then goes and gets, back in my head for just a minute, was that seal planted there? I doubt it was, but there's just knowing some of the old True Life Adventure stuff, was that planted there? As far as the eating the different animals, I didn't have as big of an issue with that because it's the whole circle of life type thing. but and I think this was the least gory of the two things we had to watch this week.
Agreed. I didn't find it unreasonably gory, except for the whale scene. It was kind of gross, but they actually didn't show the full scope of the attack on the seal and on
They
the
didn't show it.
walrus pup.
They didn't show them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, they didn't show much at all. They were.
Yeah.
It was pretty PG.
I do remember, and I wrote this down. 12 minutes in, I thought, how much Baby Bear can you sit and watch at one sitting? This should have been 40, 45 minutes. This should have been cut about in half.
Yep.
This would have made an amazing nap if I hadn't had to stay awake and watch the whole thing. There's not even any color. It's all black, white, and blue. It's just IMAX to me does such a better job. The ones that are shown in IMAX are such better. They're shorter, all about 40, 45 minutes. They've usually got some kind of humor in them to connect with the people who don't want it to be super serious the whole time. And the narration's usually better. So to me, this was a little painful to watch just because not much happened. Kate?
Oh, it was awful. and I wanted to like it. And you all know that I loved a good documentary. Nature documentaries don't tend to be my thing as much as other documentaries. I know that's partly why I was excited to especially hear Sam's comeback or her critique, because I knew that she does love a good nature documentary. But oh god, I felt like it could have just been like baby polar bears running around and tackling each other. Mama polar bear getting food. Baby polar bears running around tackling each other. Mama bear getting food. So, and like, listen, I'm not a vegetarian. I had steak for dinner. That doesn't mean that I want to know exactly where, like, I don't really want to know the animal that my steak came from. Anyway, we're not even going to open that can of worms, but I don't really want to know or watch animals eating other animals. Even though they didn't show it, like they showed the little seal and his little eyes. So we're just like, and I was like, no, not the
Have you looked
seal.
at a baby cow? Have you looked at a baby cow lately?
We're not even gonna, listen, this is,
she doesn't want to see where her food comes from. I don't either. I'll be honest. I don't want to see where my food comes from, but I didn't have the same reaction.
Nope.
In this film as you did.
You know what? I'm not going to watch any of those food documentaries about McDonald's. Not going to do it. So anyway, I digress. Yeah. But this also, and I know I said this a little bit before the show, this also reminds me of, I believe it might be Oklahoma, maybe Arkansas, but I think it's Oklahoma. Their like Parks and Recreation Twitter account, I think it is, makes, anytime it goes into wintertime, they make a post that's like, like a fox or something that's like, do not bring in this tiny animal into your home. It does not need to stay warm. It will eat you. And I felt like because of how the narration was, they needed to make like a
disclaimer.
A disclaimer that's like, the tiny polar bears are not sounding like nice, sweet girls in their head. Do not bring them into your home. They will eat you.
Well, nobody would bring in an adult male polar bear because it became very clear in this movie that the adult male polar bears were dangerous.
Unless you want a family. And
one thing I learned
helped provide her with the family.
I know, that was funny.
Big thing I learned: if you see an adult polar bear, find the edge of the ice. Right. So it was like, I mean, I thought some of the shots were really pretty. I think that there were some informative things about global climate change and stuff like that. Wasn't my cup of tea. And for the people that it was their cup of tea, that's amazing. I'm so glad that someone out there enjoyed it. It wasn't for me. So, all right, Pete, bring us home. I'm excited to hear this.
Well, I will say that I'm glad, Sam, that your son appreciated it. I'm glad that he's helping the polar bears. Certainly, climate change. I am involved in an industry that does a lot for low global warming, and we're trying to improve the situation. I have a strong belief that climate change is a real problem. I think I'm not sure they're going to go extinct from it, but it's definitely it's definitely something that can adversely affect the polar bears. That said, I kind of hated this movie. I thought it was crassly manipulative. The way that they did the narration, I just did not like it.
Get him! Get him!
I Kate hit it on the head. Baby polar bears playing, mama polar bears getting food. That it wasn't an hour and a half movie. There wasn't, and every once in a while they would show, birds.
Unfortunately, it was an hour and a half
Well,
movie.
it didn't.
It didn't need to be
an hour and a half movie.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that.
Until they put this ridiculous story over it that basically says, basically is like, oh, the world's gonna end and it's all your fault, humans. And and it might be true, but but I did not find that entertaining, or as I said, to me it was very extremely there's manipulative, and then there's like over the top manipulative, and I felt like from moment one of them showing those pet polar bears swimming across the ocean, this movie was trying to manipulate me into feeling miserable for the polar bears. And to me, that's not what I want my entire nature documentary to be focused on. I get the conservation angle. I'm surprised actually, Derek, that they shot it over 15 years. I still question that. There was, with all these Disneynature film, there's also a hour and 20-minute documentary about the making of the movie there. I couldn't stand the movie enough to devote another hour and 20. So beautifully shot. There's some beautiful footage in it, but oh my God, it's way too long and way too, as I said, crassly manipulative. I did not. I like nature documentaries. The Big Cats one is fantastic. China. There's a couple other ones they've done.
The other bears one with the brown bears. That one is fantastic.
That one was good. That one was pretty good.
Yeah. I think they needed this to involve more other animals or something. Yes. There just wasn't enough.
More of an Arctic rather than polar bear.
Yeah.
Like they did with China, with the Born in China. Here you
go. Tell us the story of the polar bear, then tell us the story of a seal, and then have after we know the story of the seal, have the polar bear eat the seal. That would be great.
There you go. Yeah.
I know. Kate won't watch it, but the rest of us will.
I won't. You can't show me the seal laying on his tummy, just sunbathing, bothering nobody. Bothering nobody. Just minding its own little seal business.
Listen, it's the circle of life.
And I get that. But that doesn't mean I want to see it.
Do you like fried chicken, Kate?
We're not talking about this, Derek. We're not going there, Derek.
Just saying.
I like fried chicken. And I don't want to think about where it comes from.
As Steve says, it was almost unbearable. He loved the cinematography, but wished the narration was different. Agree. Gina says it's hard to show these documentaries to her class. Too long. They only need to hear about the animals eating, not witnessing it. As I said, the IMAX ones do a whole lot better job of that, as far as they don't usually show, except the orcas playing with the baby seal is kind of funny.
I will say my son, who, who's 8, did not have a problem with that. Like he understood. I mean, it wasn't like he was loving watching those parts, but he was not mortified by those parts because he understands the circle of life.
He clearly missed the part where you looked into the seal's soul.
And then Glenn says almost guilt-tripping narration. It wasn't even almost. It wasn't almost.
It wasn't almost.
It was full-blown guilt-tripping narration.
Agreed.
Okay, so this, as we do whenever we watch a new series or a documentary like this, we are gonna, for better or worse, give it pixie dust cups out of 5. Kate, I'm starting with you.
1.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it 1.5 for the cinematography. There was some amazing footage, some really wonderful footage. So not quite bottom of the barrel. I never give 0s though, so 1 is my bottom. But
I would also like it to be known that I'm only giving it a 1 because of the seal.
Mic drop from Kate. All right. Well, I'm going to give it a 2 because even though it wasn't my favorite and I obviously wouldn't watch it again, the impact it had on my kiddo was really quite wonderful. And so I've
Yeah,
got to
for
thank
sure.
them for that. So 2. Derek?
A 1. This is I'm not watching this again ever. It's just, why? If it was 30, 35 minutes, I might, but not in an hour and a half. And
I
and
agree.
Steve
I think
says-
that might be the worst part of it.
Yeah.
It was how long it was.
Steve says barely 2 cups. Leave the jokes to the professionals, Steve.
We had to claw our way through it.
Oh, see,
my
I can't
God.
mute Steve. I can get rid of Kate.
Hashtag silence Kate. Ay, ay, ay.
So
Don't silence Kate. Don't silence Kate, right?
So what-
Brian started that movement.
All right.
Free Kate.
One more thing,
Right.
though. I did like that the bear kept calling themselves an ice bear, because if you watch the show We Bear Bears, the polar bear on that show is constantly called Ice Bear. So
Is that why they did it?
I actually liked that too. I liked that they called themselves ice bears, but I
But
didn't
then
know
don't
about
call the movie
that
Polar
show.
Bear. Then don't call the movie Polar Bear.
But it's it's the
It's-
difference
it's-
of
that
what
was
people
weird,
call
yeah.
them and what they call themselves, Derek.
What is the technical name?
Oh,
Is the technical name polar bear or ice bear?
It's Polar Bear.
Polar bear.
Oh,
The only
okay.
other place I've heard Ice Bear is on We Bear Bears.
Got it.
We Three Bears, or whatever the name of the show is. But
I don't
or
even
wasn't
know.
Ice Bear a rapper in the early 90s? Anyway,
no.
That was Ice Cube.
Yeah, Ice Cube and Ice Tea, you mean?
Vanilla Ice.
Ice, if you will.
Vanilla Ice. Ice Baby.
A lot of icing in the 90s.
Stop.
No.
Stop, collaborate, and listen.
Okay, no, let's just stop.
Seals are back
No,
with a
no,
brand new edition.
Now,
Polar bears, grab a hold of him tightly.
I'm so sorry to everyone who's watching and listening to this. That
You're welcome, folks.
I'm sorry. But speaking of collaborating,
We'll be back next week, you guys.
maybe. Speaking of collaborating, though, it's time to go to Moon Knight, and for that, we bring in our resident Marvel expert, Micah. Micah, how you going this evening?
Doing good and enjoying the show so far.
Good.
It's, did you like
you
Ricky
you
Alive?
like our rendition of Ice
It's a
Polar
trip.
Bear?
Yes.
So, Micah, I think the biggest thing we have from is what? Huh? What? That seemed to be the prevailing attitude throughout people watching Moon Knight. Was about the last 5 minutes. It was hey, wait, what? So, Micah, wait, what's going on here?
So this is one of the major shifts, and it actually is straight out of the comics as well. So there was a 2016 run that this was very, very similar to, and there's 2 different ways that they could be taking this. There have been spoilers, though, that have come up throughout. So I think they are actually in a place that they call the overvoid. So is there is it real, everything that's been going on in his life, or is this scenario that he's in now the real thing?
Yeah.
That's the big question.
Yeah.
And the answer might be both. Derek, I know you've got thoughts on this. Yeah, I think what we're seeing here is an internal journey that he's on, or it's in sort of this God realm of the overvoid. And I think the turn at the end with Tauret, or Derek, you're going to correct me and say it a different way. And
I was
there's all
going
sorts of
to, but
the
now I've
hippo,
forgotten.
the hippo
hippo
looking
god,
god,
Hippo
thing.
God, yeah.
It's me. Hi.
Yeah, and she's actually one of the main characters for the next 2 episodes.
Mhm.
So it'll be really interesting to have her in. But because we're seeing her in God form, it makes me think that we are actually where the gods dwell, and somehow Mark and Stephen and others are there from that same body. So yes,
Interesting. Do you think we're going to meet her avatar too? Because she's got to have an avatar also, don't we think?
Or have we?
Ooh, that's a possibility. But the other thing is, she may be one of the many gods that's trapped in stone. So,
so we might see Khonshu
getting
in
there,
this
yeah.
in this overvoid too. Then
right, possibly.
Well,
So
you do
for
in a
all of
drawing.
you,
You do in one of the drawings.
yes,
Khonshu
in
was
the
there.
drawing, yes, we
Yeah.
saw it in the
for
drawing.
ahead,
all
Kate.
of you who may not be giant Marvel complete experts like everyone else on this panel except
Now
for
wait a
myself.
minute.
Hang on,
No.
hang on. If when the hippo god showed up and you immediately went, "Oh, it's the girl from Doc McStuffins with the little
Oh my god, it totally is.
that is 1,000,000,000,000% what confused Kate said. And the best part about it,
Listen,
is this
Disney owns everything, so it could
This
totally could be.
giant hippo shows up and her response is hello, and I was like, ha, the doc is in. So that's sorry, I just needed to throw that out there while we're
Oh.
talking about this hippo god,
Oh
because
my
that's
God.
100% where my head went. You're
What
welcome.
is it? What's that song? The time to
Time
get
for
your checkup.
Time
For your
listen,
checkup.
I can quote the entire thing. We will.
I love it. We'll be here all
Anyway,
week, folks.
Yes, they will be here all week.
We're stuck in the overvoid, Kate and I, but we'll be performing all week.
No, yeah. Okay. So, Micah, you were talking about the maybe stuck in the rock with the other gods.
yeah, we have this thing of Khonshu's one of his main abilities is Mark gets killed in the comics, or Moon Knight gets killed in the comics a number of times and is saved, resurrected. Khonshu, that's one of his main abilities. But Khonshu's trapped, so it's not Khonshu sending them on this journey. Maybe. So yeah, seeing a god in the true god form, is it all in his head? And I think that's where a lot of people are left. But I think that there's enough hints there and coming out of the comics that this is probably the overvoid, and or another way of saying it, this might be his journey through the Valley of the Reeds, which is going back to episode 1. Which the little girl in episode 1 talks to him about. Well, you got rejected from the.
Yeah, how did it feel to get turned down?
Yeah. How did it feel to get turned down?
And the line is, "I'm not dead, am I?" And then
Yes,
he gets
that was that
interrupted.
little underbit
Right.
there that you
Yeah.
really had to catch that. So yeah, who is that little girl, and how did she know about this in advance? But this might be his journey, and I think so. Toweret is not from the comics at all. So actually, really interesting. I was listening to an interview with one of the writers, and he said that he was looking at the board of all these different gods that they had drawn, and he just fell in love with this shape of a hippo god, and was like, "We got to put that one in." And this is what we get. We get a weird hippo god in there. But the Toweret is the god of birth and rebirth,
childbirth, fertility, and rejuvenation.
So-
And
Ooh.
rejuvenation.
right? So she is also
Just in
one.
time for Mother's Day and just a little belated for Easter.
Yeah. She's also often one of the gods that helps people through their journey through the Valley of the Reeds. So yeah, that's some of where I think the big twist is taking us. But oh my, all of the little details, all the people we got to see, the last like 5-6 minutes of this one was definitely one you had to watch about 3 or 4 times to catch it all.
Now,
Yeah.
is Layla really there, do we think?
Well, and did you notice the line for her I'm worried about is, "I promise I'll share the winnings this time."
This time, yeah. I caught that too. I thought
did
that was
anyone
very
else
weird.
think she ate a cotton ball, or was that just me?
That was a marshmallow. 'Cause
Okay.
A
in
marshmallow.
in the
Yes.
previous, or at the beginning of the episode, she was eating marshmallows.
Yeah,
When
missed
she was
that.
getting her fake ID.
So
Yeah.
I 100% thought she just like bit into a cotton ball, and I was like, "What is happening?" Glad.
Well,
These are the things
well,
I pick up on you.
I didn't get everybody, but everybody in that asylum, or whatever you want to call it, we've seen
Correct.
before, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I couldn't match everybody, but a lot of them
Well,
definitely.
either they had been there or they were holding something that had. So there's 2 characters that
Mm.
weren't in there before. The guy who was playing with the Rubik's Cube, I don't think he was in, but it's
but the
the
cube
Rubik's Cube.
was.
Yeah, and then
Right.
the person who was pushing the cupcakes.
Right.
I
Okay.
don't think he was, but the cupcakes are a reference back to the chase in the first one. So
Right.
yeah.
Micah, I want to know what you think about my initial theory. So I hadn't read anything about this ahead of time or after or before we were talking today. But my theory in watching this was that this was like Harrow setting up Stephen/Mark to making him think that everything was fake when it really was real, right? Like
Which
that
is
this.
how the comic run goes.
Okay, so
That's
that
how the
way.
comic run goes.
yeah, so my theory was, everything that happened to Mark and Steven was real, and this world, it's real, but it's a fake world in the sense that it's everything there has been planted, right, to make him think that he's just been in an asylum this whole time, and that everything that just happened didn't actually happen.
I
And I
would
wanted to know
maybe-
what you think about that.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go for it.
I would maybe have believed that if two things didn't happen. One, he didn't find Steven and he's with himself, as opposed to just in the real world, he's seeing him in reflections. And then the hippo showing up. And Kate, like you say, we're all Marvel fans or whatever like this. Other than Micah, none of us have a clue about this show. I knew
Oh, good.
nothing. I
Yeah.
know nothing about Moon Knight. So that hippo shows
And I
up.
just
I'm
do
like,
a lot of research.
I literally I wish that the only other time that I was more confused than I am right now was than watching Loki.
Yeah.
And again, it's because, and this was my fear when we started watching Moon Knight, was the whole like, it's multiple personalities. Okay, or I'm sorry, I can't remember what the correct term to use
DID.
there is.
Dissociative identity disorder.
Okay, perfect. That. But now when we introduce this, it's making me question. It's like gaslighting.
What's real, right?
It's like gaslighting the viewer, and so I'm like, have
Oh,
I been a hippo the whole time? Like,
Yeah.
I think this was
Yes.
perfectly done to really make you question reality, and that
right.
is what the comic run was doing. And actually, when you say Harrow, in the comics is actually Amat, who is Harrow's god is the one who is he's basically playing the role that she played in the comics, even down to having the two guards grabbing him, which used to be the police. That's like straight out of the comics as well. Even the hug scene, that is like straight out of the comics. And yeah, it's part of his journey coming to peace with himself and his different personalities, which I think is some of what we're going to see over the next two. And I can't wait until we see Jake. But yes.
Yeah.
Is
And
Jake the third personality that we haven't met yet?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm excited for that.
okay, Derek, you say your thing, and then I'll.
well, no, go ahead, Kate. You got a question. Go for
Well,
it.
okay, so Micah, so you, because you've read the comics, you kind of know. Do you kind of know where this is going?
Somewhat. They are doing some interesting mixing of some of the comics. So
Okay.
one of the interesting ones when we're talking about Layla is a compilation of a couple of characters, and in that scene, like, you guys were caught on what she was saying, and
Mm-mm.
I was totally caught by the band-aid that she had.
Mhm.
Wait, which one was Layla?
Layla
The-
is
the wife.
The
love
wife.
interest.
Wife/girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
Which they have changed her last name
Uh-huh.
from what it was in the comics to be the same name as another character who is the Scarlet Scarab, and
Mm.
To be
that's-
to make her the daughter of him,
No.
right?
The Scarlet.
Oh.
Okay, Micah, who's
Oh,
the
a different
Scarlet Scarab?
well, see, this is where the Scarlet Scarab in the original comics, and I never read him because he was old, but like World War II kind of comics, he was the
Egyptian Captain
one.
America, wasn't he? Basically.
Right, yes, and some of the early ones.
Oh.
But the name is the same, and that in his alter ego as the Scarlet Scarab, his alter ego was a what's the word? What is Layla's dad?
Archaeologist.
Archaeologist.
Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. So it seems like they're meshing two characters to make her maybe his daughter, and it
And
could
will
be
she be the new Scarlet Scarab?
right, which would be her way of getting powers without being under Khonshu. And
Oh.
So there's all
Kate-
these
Kate's a
hints
baby
for that,
seal.
and they've
Kate-
been doing things with the whole, she's her
Mhm.
father's little scarab. So
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Micah, I don't know if you noticed the IE that she writes, which I'm not sure how that's the guy's
Yeah,
last
what was
name.
that
But-
about?
no. But if you notice in the credits, that's actually on. There's a stone that's there with like a wing, and that's engraved on it.
Oh, I missed that.
I would like it to be known, everyone following along at home, that Derek is probably the least Marvel fan of all of
Marvelly
us.
of
And yet
marvelousness.
he is showing the heck up tonight
Well, he
with
does
his
a
knowledge.
he does a lot
I
of
do a lot of
research.
research. I do a lot of
Oh.
research.
Like I'm the opposite. Like I wanna be on this ride, and I know we're spending a lot of time talking about the last 5 minutes of this episode, but this whole episode was, in my opinion, fantastic. I mean, it
This
was
episode was really good. Pete.
genuinely like scary. There were some scary moments in it, bits of
Yeah.
horror and things like that. And
There were 3 minutes I
That
skipped.
snake man. Oh my god,
I
he was
skipped.
terrifying.
I skipped the disemboweling and that whole fight scene. To be perfectly honest,
Kate's doing
because that was where
Kate, you're
this
scaring me.
show earned
Yo.
its TV or is it 16 rating maybe, whatever. It's behind the parental passcode.
yeah, it
Yeah.
didn't
Oh, is
really
it?
show anything, but it was kind of ooky
I don't
sounding.
care.
Yo, can we talk about though when she was like, I'm gonna crawl over this like thing, and then this hand was like, nah, crazy person, you're not gonna do that. She goes, and then she goes, oh, and like the next thing I expected was Emotep from the Mummy to just like show up and be like, everybody bow to me. So
this
it's so good.
this summary narration here is just
It was like, there was like, there was like,
And that was exactly what happened. She described it perfectly.
yeah.
Good
I
at what
love
I do.
Steve's comment, and this is actually something Pete said to the rest of us in our chat ahead of this. Was it had the Indiana Jones vibe totally. So I did not made no secret on our last episode that I hated the first 3 episodes really of this series, because I was like, what are we doing? This is like not Marvel. Like what's going on? Like I had to read articles in order to understand what was actually happening. I did get that he had DID very quickly, but like, and that there was a third personality we hadn't met, but I still was like just not that interested. And then I watched this episode and I was like, ooh, this is super fun. And then at the end of the episode was actually like my favorite part, because I love when Marvel does these weird twists, like they, it was just like totally off the wall, kind of like what we saw in WandaVision, right? When we see that, Wanda and Vision are in this TV show, and then we finally see the outside world, right, looking in. And so I thought this was just a really interesting twist, and I can't wait to see how it turns out.
And Sam, you bring that up. So far, episode 4 of every Marvel show has had this twist. In WandaVision, it's where she throws Monica out of the hex.
There you go.
In Falcon and Winter Soldier, it's when Walker kills the guy.
Yeah.
In
Listen,
Loki-
it was Agatha all along. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, in Loki, it was where we got all the TVA secrets. In What If, it was when they introduced Strange Supreme. In Hawkeye, it's when we find out Yelena's trying to kill Clint. It's episode 4 is the biggie in all the Marvel shows.
Well, they've got a plan in it, and it seems to be working, even when it starts out rough, right? Even when it starts out, in my opinion, I know others really liked it, but even though to me it started out real rough, and I'm not sure I would have continued watching it if not for having to watch for this show. But now I'm like, ooh, I really want to know what happens next.
All right.
Okay.
I definitely have another question asked, but I feel
Go,
like
Pete.
did everybody
Go for it,
get to say what they wanted to say though?
No,
I had just my only thing is like, Micah, I want you. Can you help me understand what is real and what is not real in
Not
this?
yet.
He doesn't know yet. He doesn't know
Not
yet.
yet.
Micah knows everything, you guys. Micah has the inside scoop. He's
Well, no, he
read
just-
the books.
He read the books.
I'll just do it.
He
Here's
read
a
the
hint.
manuals.
It's real, probably all of it. But is it real to anybody else other than him?
God.
Which plane is it on? Which of the spectral planes is? Yeah.
Right.
All
Okay,
right.
Pete, go ahead.
So I had to. Well, we should ask Steve's question. That he popped up there, which I think we all know the answer to is: was Jacob in the sarcophagus that was rattling? I think we're all thinking yes, right?
Probably.
Right.
Tally the
But
hippo.
my question, the OCD part of me that was really bothering me is, what was up with that bingo card? I2? There's no I2 in bingo. I mean, like all the numbers were messed up for bingo. Did that mean something?
There, possibly. It depends on what's considered canon anymore and what's
It
not.
depends. You're no. I'm the lawyer here, Micah.
Yeah.
My answer is it depends. Okay.
So none of the numbers were off of a card, and if you looked at any of the cards, they were totally off as far as bingo goes. And there are people who are making guesses on all the numbers. Some of them probably mean something. So the guy who we've seen earlier, who was painted all in gold and was the
Right.
statue guy. So and I've just blanked on his name.
Make it up. We won't know the difference.
He's the bingo caller.
Right.
Who,
He's the
yeah.
Right.
Anyway, the number that he calls out and is repeating is, there might be a hint with that. In Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's like I think it's T19, which is the serum, and I might be getting the number wrong, but it's the same number as the serum, the truth serum that they give in that. So it might be, Crawley, that's his name, Crawley. So
Yeah.
Crawley might be giving him a hint that he's drugged and somebody's giving him T19. So
Are you sure it's not 2319 and it's the sock
No,
on the monster's back?
So, but there
Okay.
might be something totally off with the numbers.
Well played.
Okay. Okay. I got a couple things that haven't come up yet. One is in the opening scene. You see the I think it was the Osiris avatar putting the Ammit statue in the wall of other gods.
Yeah.
Okay. If you look at the upper right, it almost looks like a
Not-
statue of Ammit.
Not oh no, you mean Khonshu statue, the Khonshu statue.
But
Oh.
I've seen something where there's potentially also gods from some other mythologies. Is that how it's, because it's going to link into Doctor Strange, the new Doctor Strange movie?
Actually, I think the bigger link is probably going to be with Thor, because the bad
The god killer.
Yeah, the god killer, and he's probably coming after all of the gods. So these gods are going to be at risk there.
Okay.
When they panned out and we saw all those gods, I was like, oh, I got real excited, probably
Mhm.
like you did, Derek, with that. And I was like, oh, I'm sure some of those are going to come in. And I tried to zoom in on some of those and I couldn't see any of them clear enough, but I'm sure we are going to start seeing some of those in
Okay.
episodes 5 and 6.
Do you think this is going to link in with the gods and the Eternals?
Oh, let's hope
I'm
not.
hoping
no, I
no,
don't think
because
so.
none of
I
us
don't
like
think
the
so.
Eternals.
I
But
think it's going to go more, as he said, the Thor, the new MCU stuff that's coming out. I think the Eternals is probably the one that's more set off by itself.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think they needed to do the Eternals to get a couple of other characters in, and hopefully they use them in something separate. But
Well, 'cause I
let's
think-
please not go back to that.
Because I think
Yeah.
Zeus is actually in the new Doctor Strange one. Because
Yeah,
it's
they
Russell
hinted at
Crowe.
Yeah.
oh, interesting.
So, couple other things. Did you notice in the room where he drew the Eye of Horus or whatever, the walls had mirrors on them? The walls were reflective.
I did
um,
not.
I don't trust Layla. At least,
Well, I don't know. She's got me on my knees.
I was going to do that.
tell you, darling, please. But why would she lead him in with? She didn't seem like concerned that anyone was going to jump out and attack him at all. So that was a little.
Wait, when?
Convenient.
Say that again?
When she led them into the tomb. She leads them into the tomb and she's not worried about getting caught at all.
Gotcha.
So that could be a couple different directions. Now, Pete, Micah, I'm curious to see, do you think they're going to stick with the books or do you think they're going to make Jake be the one, or comic books, Jake be the? Do you think they're going to make Jake be the one who killed her dad, or they think they'll stick with Bushman? And Kate, yeah, you need to explain who Bushman is for Kate.
Okay, so Bushman, they
And me.
did some of the
Yeah.
origin
Thanks,
story
Sam.
in this one, where they talked about him being there when Layla's father was killed,
Right.
which is again straight out of the comics. And his partner that he talks about who got greedy is Bushman, and Bushman ends up being one of the main villains early on.
Damn it, Bushman.
Well, see,
Well,
I think Layla and Bushman might be the interesting thing going forward. I think that will be where the conflict is she might get powers and go after him. So
Oh.
I half want to see her and Bushman, who we haven't seen at all yet, or at least we don't think we've seen him.
Well, yeah. Okay. Well,
Unless
okay,
he's the
we'll
third
see.
personality.
No.
No.
No? Okay.
Oh boy, if they do that, that would be a really weird twist.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting
You
thing
never
though,
know.
so in the credits, there's he's got the 3 faces, but when you see him first reflected, there's 4. There's 4 there.
No,
So
there's going to be a fourth personality. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's
I
Moon
think-
Knight.
No,
That's
Oh.
the.
I don't think so.
All right.
I
don't
also
think they're going to throw us a 4th personality.
Yeah,
Well,
it's not
if-
enough episodes to
Marvel,
throw us a
who-
fourth.
Oh, when has that ever
personality.
stopped Marvel?
But-
But
Hang on. Unless it's a little girl.
well,
Could be
Unless
that
it's a
little girl.
little girl or it's a seal.
and I also know that
or a
Oscar
hippo.
Oscar
Time to
Isaac
get
has
your
basically
checkup.
confirmed that Jake is coming and that Jake will have an iteration of the Moon Knight outfit.
Oh, he's gonna have his own
Coming.
Moon Knight outfit. I kind of like
Yes.
that because I like
Well,
the two. I like
because
that we've seen
that
2 different
seems
Moon Knight
logical
outfits.
and go with your logic is
Yeah.
how he responded in the thing.
So
I wonder what it'll look like. What kind of white.
And
outfit
that's
he'll
something
have.
totally new. None of us will have seen that.
No,
That will be
but-
totally new to this.
Okay, but think about the little action figure he had with the cape. Did not have a mask. The
Oh.
action figure didn't have a mask. It just had the hood and the cape. The other 2 Moon Knights have a mask.
yeah, I
I
guess.
wonder if they go that direction. know.
Anything about what was up on the bulletin board that Layla put like a picture up? I couldn't tell on my screen if that was anything or was it
I
just
haven't
too
really
small
seen much
to
about
really.
that, Micah. Have
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, it was too blurry. I again, they had so many things in that scene
Yeah.
that picked up from other ones.
Yeah.
There are probably hints in there, and we didn't get it clear enough to see.
And
I
you
also-
mentioned. Oh, sorry.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. You mentioned the Huntsman. The other you were mentioning like how these big changes happen in episode 4. Almost every Marvel series, they've also just prior to the last episode revealed who the
true bad
big
guy is.
The baddie is, yeah.
Right. And this episode, we haven't had any bad guys really other than Harrow and Emmett. So I wonder if that Huntsman is going to show up at the end of the next episode or something.
I mean,
And
Bushman.
Bushman, sorry.
and
Yes,
Yeah,
Snow
got
White
one-
has the Huntsman.
yeah, Snow White's not. Yeah.
Sorry.
One thing I noticed, and then to your point, Pete, the psychological office. Remember in the episode where he talks about the psycho's man cave that he's going to die in? That is the office with everything painted white. It's the
is
same.
it?
It's the same room because it has the jars on the shelf and it has everything. So that's where that location is. It's just that it's been painted white. Now you mention we've only seen Harrow and who we assume is Amit. However, Marvel this evening released 2 new posters. Okay. The first poster they released is, I'm going to put him up on the screen here. That is Amit. That's the Amit statue that
Is Amit like a crocodile thing?
She's
essentially, yes.
the head of a crocodile, the feet of a hippo, and I forget what the third one is.
Something
but
of it's a lion, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
but the head is the crocodile. Okay.
Which
Yeah.
one thing we never know is when he dies, where does that little statue go? Because he has hidden it somewhere on his body. And where is that statue now? But so everyone is assuming the psychologist is going to become Amit. They also released this image.
What's on the scales?
That is Anubis, the god of death.
Well,
He
one's
is
a feather.
and there's 2 rocks.
2 rocks, yeah.
Okay.
And the feather is basically, that is the, are you innocent, and what balances your innocence, and where is your, but the thought is that Harrow is not going to be Amit. He is Anubis, and someone else will end up being Amit. So that's the thought that comes from those
because
two.
he's not Amit's avatar. We know yet, right? So
Well, no one is, because Amit's locked up.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Amit's in her little statue. That's the statue he pulled out of.
Now, I also know the female
Mark
counterpart of Anubis is Anput, who's personed as a jackal, which is
You're
the
giving Kate
creature
a
that goes
headache.
after him. Yeah,
my brain has stopped computing, and I've just started hearing loud circus music in my head. So that's where I'm at. Yeah.
and you wonder why I get fed up with all the twists in Marvel sometimes. Because if you miss
And
one,
yeah, you're
you
following
miss them
this
all.
perfectly. I'm like,
That's 'cause I have
time
no
for your
life.
checkup.
So-
Time.
I think
for your checkup.
Derek's actually going too deep.
Yeah, I agree. I have to agree because I'm not
Micah,
following either.
Counterpoint, am I?
Well, I think you might be onto something. That I think that Emmett may not be she's been locked up. These 5 gods that are there that have been locking everybody up. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up being the ones that they've imprisoned all the other gods. So will there be a breaking out of the other gods from these 5 that are sort of trapping everybody?
And remember, Micah, in the episode 1, he talks about they only listed, like, if there's 8 of the royal court, basically, they only listed 6 of them. There were 2 they quote unquote left off the poster.
Yeah.
That is especially now, that's the kind of thing that Marvel will pull back. Those 2 will play big.
And are we seeing one of them in Towerhead? Is she one of them?
Except she was, I doubt it, because she was a hippo souvenir in the gift shop.
But she's also in that closing scene where they have all of the god statues. She's one of those.
She's
statues.
one of them. Yeah.
So I think they can go in some really interesting. Yeah.
Well,
I think they can go in some really interesting directions with it, and I think that they've done some of here's where we've gotten the source material from, and now we're going to play with your mind with where we go from here.
I think the end of episode 5
now,
could be.
Now we're gonna play with your mind.
Oh, they've been playing with our mind pretty good all along.
But
my mind has been played with since Loki. So
Hawkeye was not confusing. Well,
no, but Loki, Loki was.
Micah, it was either Micah or Pete. I think Pete, it might have been you that said basically for these shows that run 6 episodes, at the end of episode 5 is when you finally figure out who your true bad guy is. So I think by this time tomorrow, everyone's going to know who your true bad guy is if you watch the show. Or for those of us who are staying up and seeing if it drops at midnight, we might do that one. So
it does drop. It does drop at midnight because I watch it I often watch new releases on Disney Plus at 9 p.m.
Okay, but
Pacific time.
Michael, you said episode 3 did not drop at midnight.
Not here, or at least
not central anyway. Yeah.
If anyone needs something to watch until midnight, might I suggest the 1994 classic starring Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, Sleepless in Seattle? It's a wonderful movie.
What about some old school Doc McStuffins? Because I'm in the mood for that right now. I'm going to say.
Okay. I could say something, but I think we'll just say, Micah, thank you, and I think we're all looking forward to seeing what happens tomorrow. So we will be talking about that next week, but we are also going to be talking about one of the very few positive mother movies in the Disney catalog, and technically it's Pixar. We're going to be watching Brave next week. So
for Mother's Day,
yeah, because that will be our Mother's Day show. And Micah, I think you and I both know how we need to dress for that one. So for those of you not aware of it, Mike and I will both be probably in kilts that week for next week's episode. Oh, Kate, you're shaking your head. Yeah. Every Friday in my class, I wear a kilt to school.
Oh my God. Why
Now,
am I
do you
just
wear-
now
Wait,
learning
yeah,
this?
do you wear like a real kilt or like
Yes.
a utility kilt?
No, both. But a real kill. I've got the sporin. I've got everything. I wear the.
You wear
sometimes-
Neosporin with a kilt?
Well,
Well,
it depends
it
on how
shaves.
beat up I get. Yes.
Did I hear you wrong? What did you say?
A sporin. SP. It's
Oh.
it's the little man purse.
it's the
that
fanny
hangs
pack.
in the front. Yeah.
It's a man purse. I love that.
It's the original man purse.
Yeah.
Oh
So-
my God. The train is off the tracks.
It's
y'all.
a merce,
No, no,
okay?
no, no.
It's a
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
merce.
Kate, the train is now off the tracks.
No, it's been
Do
off
we
the
need to go-
track since the baby seal made an
Oh
appearance.
no. We went off the tracks about 3 minutes in on this one.
That's fair.
So
That's fair.
but guys, if you have suggestions for what's coming up, or you want to know, you have specific questions for Micah, I, or any of the platooners about Moon Knight, email them to us, message us on Facebook. We're at plusplatoon@gmail.com, YouTube, Instagram. Send us the message, and we'll try and answer it as best we can next week. And we may be going,
You might just get a picture of Kate going, I don't know.
You might get a picture of Hallie Hippo.
and,
Yes.
and I will say, Steve has loved your facial expression.
Well,
So-
it's the little things. We got Micah, who's the expert, and I'm just here for the comedic relief. So it's good.
Guys, with that,
Kate
it's
and I
been
are
a
here for
lot
song
of-
and dance.
No, we haven't actually seen you sing and dance yet. So
Don't tempt
wait.
me.
No.
no,
I missed making one joke. Who you gonna call? Goombusters.
Oh,
Oh my goodness,
Derek's
that
so
was
mad.
terrible.
Derek's
That was
so
so
mad.
bad.
and with that, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a lot of fun, guys. Really, truly has, and we will see you guys all next week. So, good night, everyone. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcast and leave those 5-star reviews, as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com, or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode, because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.